We're turning for Lesson 3 to writing characters. This is a very important stage in the creation of your product. You know Aristotle's Poetics, you're aware of what an action idea is, and now you're beginning to look at the creative process. So in his 1926 book called The Art of Thought, psychologist Graham Wallis identified 4 stages of the creative process, which are common to most creative enterprises. This includes screen, prose, poetry, and songwriting. The first stage is preparation. Gain the necessary knowledge. For example, the craft skills and the adequate research you need on the subject of your story. Become an expert. Number 2 is the incubation. Let the idea simmer in the unconscious mind. Don't write it right away. Let your thoughts wander. Think about it before you go to bed. Dream about it before you write about it. Number 3 is illumination. This is the actual inspiration and the putting forth of the masterpiece into an available physical reality. For example, a manuscript. And number 4 is the verification. So this is editing the raw work into a polished, presentable form and painting. This can be a very difficult stage because you may need to go through many drafts before you can be happy with it. To develop a character, I'd like to give you some examples. So My Brilliant Career by Eleanor Whitcomb. She writes, beyond the open door and windows, Sibylla, a skinny girl of 16, 17 years old with a vital, if not pretty face, paces backwards and forwards, holding a stub of a pencil and an old exercise book, deep in concentration, oblivious to her surroundings. We see from this character description a lot of information in a single paragraph about this girl. Most of us probably know somebody like this, and we can instantly visualize her. Here's an example from Thelma and Louise by Callie Curry. Louise is a waitress in a coffee shop. She is in her early 30s, but too old to be doing this. She's very pretty and meticulously groomed, even at the end of her shift. Again, this is an instantly recognizable character. Let's move on to Titanic. James Cameron is an excellent writer, and if you don't believe me, look at how much he's grossed on his films. Jack Dawson and Fabrizio De Rossi, both about 20, exchange a glance as the other 2 players argue in Swedish. Jack is an American, a lanky drifter with his hair a little long for the standards of the times. He's also unshaven and his clothes are rumpled from sleeping in them. He's an artist, and he's adopted the bohemian style of art scene in Paris. He's also very self-possessed and sure-footed for 20, having lived on his own since 15. The Renault stops, and the liveried driver scurries to open the door for a young woman dressed in a stunning white and purple outfit, with an enormous feathered hat. She is 17 years old and beautiful, regal of bearing with piercing eyes. It is the girl in the drawing, Rose. She looks up at the ship, taking it in with cool appraisal. So this is a very short moment where we begin to meet the characters, but it's very striking the difference in the 2 characters that's established very early on in the film. Let's look at Lethal Weapon, a very different kind of film. This is by Shane Black. Detective Roger Murtaugh, seated in a bathtub. He groans, throws a towel over himself, and mutters in mock indignation. Roger's tough, an old-fashioned fighter, wears his past like a scar. Piercing eyes, cynical. He's surrounded by his family, wife, and 3 children, names and ages as follows. Trish, roughly 38, she used to be a stunner. Nick, 10 years old, precocious. Carrie, age 7, eyes like saucers, adorable. Rianne, heartbreaker stuff, 17, takes your breath away, folks. So you can see that this is a very different style of introduction. The sentences are very short and choppy. The wording is very clear, and it feels as if it's a detective writing a report, even when he begins to list his family. Very conscious details that express what they're like. Here's another example from The Sixth Sense by M. Night Shyamalan. Malcolm Crowe sits on the floor at the coffee table, his vest and tie on the sofa behind him. A jacket and an overcoat lay on a briefcase next to him. Malcolm is in his 30s with thick wavy hair and striking intelligent eyes that squint from years of intense study. His charming, easygoing smile spreads across his face. You feel like this is somebody that you'd like to get to know just from that introduction. So the character description in a feature screenplay is usually composed of, first, the name, the age, the physical description, the nationality, social circumstances, and psychological an appraisal. Plus, if there's any defining physical character traits, including props for actors or extra business that they have on stage, if there's a particular monocle they're using or some kind of prop that they carry. The film hook. So to pitch your film, you need a 25-word or less write-up that hooks the listener's interest and sells the screenplay concept to a producer. This, as you know, is your action idea. So the hook, the opening scenario of the film that hooks the listener, makes them ask the question, "Tell me more," or "And what happens then?" For example, a poet falls for a beautiful courtesan working at the Moulin Rouge whom a jealous duke covets. That's the plot for Moulin Rouge. An American reporter goes to the Australian outback to meet an eccentric crocodile poacher and invites him back to New York City, Crocodile Dundee. Two unemployed losers raised on TV decide to rob a bank. That's Idiot Box. A man kept locked in his house for 30 years by his overly possessive mother ventures out into the outside world. Bad Boy Bubby. Most people probably haven't seen that, but the plot sounds intriguing. A young girl bets her prized telescope she can prove to the young town bully that her new neighbor is not an alien. And that's Sally Marshall is not an alien. So think about when you're creating your foundation for your story, what is your character description going to be? Create a synopsis, the film's premise, and create a hook. If you have a chance, check out Rocky, Why You Don't Need Writing Formulas on YouTube. This is a very useful way to look at how to develop a character in a meaningful way. Best of luck with your process as you create your character.